All right, your adventure to Unity Land has to start somewhere. Let it begin here, right now. Go to unity.com, create an account, fill out all this wonderful information, and you'll get a Unity ID. Once you have a Unity ID, you can sign in. And then browse around the Unity site. Now, you're here for a particular reason. You want to get started with Unity. You can go and click the Get Started button. Select Student and Hobbyist if you're a student and hobbyist. Select Personal and click the Get Started button again. Pick your download, and if you're on Mac, it should say Mac. And when you download, you're going to install the hub. And the hub is where you install different versions of Unity and also where you build your projects. Install the hub, just click on the download and follow the instructions. Launch the hub, and when you launch the hub, you have access to making projects and also dealing with the installs. And they're constantly updating and rolling out, so keep on checking Unity's website to see what is the best version for you. Up here is your account information to get a new install in case you have no installs here. Click on this menu item, Installs. This is your project. These are your projects, and right now I have nothing. This is your installs. I have one install. Click on Install Editor. Choose a long-term supported release, LTS, when you're just starting out, or you've been using this for a while and you just want something that's going to work consistently. If you need some new feature that you read up online that one of the pre-releases, betas, have this cool feature you need to try out and you want something that only the new beta and you're willing to take a little risk, use a beta. Start out with a long-term release and click on Install. Pick what platform options you want to output. If you're starting out on the Windows side, select Universal Windows. This way you can make some AR, VR stuff. If you're going for Mac builds, why not do Mac? These other builds for your iOS and Android devices. iOS will require extra installs on your Mac and Android as well. So when you're just starting out and you just want to understand Unity better or you're building something for a desktop, pick a module such as this one and click on Install. Now, since I already have my install here, if I want to upgrade the modules associated with it, just click Add Modules and select what you want to add and then click on Install. Let's say I just want to add documentation. Click that, installs. Now on the right side, now that we're at modules, you can see how much space things take up, such as adding the Universal Windows platforms could take up 2 gigs, about 2 gigs. So install only what you need until you need it. As shown, you could always add things as you need it. If you want to uninstall one of these installations, just click on the gear and click on Uninstall. Jump to projects. Right now there's no projects here. Start a new project, click on New Project. Pick a project name off on the right side and going to call this Planet 07. Pick a location, select the folder. In this area, you'll select your project templates. If you're starting out and you want to just experiment with dragging objects in and playing with Unity's interface, start out with the 3D Core. The 3D Core is a solid way to get started with Unity. If you're looking for some interesting visual effects like depth of field, blooms, and other things, then the URP and HDRP are the right choices. The HDRP is going to look a lot more realistic, but the URP is going to run a lot quicker. URP can run on your cell phone if that's what you're looking for. If you're just looking to do some animation, either the URP or HDRP are excellent choices. And these are plain scenes. So if I click here, it'll show a preview up here of the type of scene that you're starting out with a brief description. If you want some samples in your scene just to play with, using the sample scenes, HDRP, or sample scenes, URP, the construction site will give you something to rotate around, move around, maybe add on to the scene. Right now, I'm going to start out with a URP. And before I click Go, which is right here, Create Project, One note, you should get an external SSD drive. That's one of those solid state drives, not a mechanical drive, the old school ones with an actual disk in it that spins around. That's because Unity creates a lot of files, and not just a lot of files, little files, but it also creates gigs of information. When I click URP, it's going to create roughly 2 gigs of information to get this project started. And that will add up quickly each time you make a project and when you start to add assets into your project. So installing this on an external drive, excellent, but make sure it's an external SSD drive. This way, everything flows quickly in and out of the computer. And you just don't want to clog up your internal drive with all these projects. 10 projects, that's 20 gigs gone instantly. Click on this. All right, after a minute or 2 or 3, you'll be within the Unity interface. Off on the left side is the hierarchy, which is a listing of all the objects in the scene and gives you a way to select your objects. Down here is the project area. Here's the assets area. These are the files that you would import or files that get created within Unity. They end up here as your assets library. And you would drag an asset from here into here or from here into the scene in order to use it. On the right side is the inspector, and the inspector gives you more information, ways to control and animate your objects within the scene and feedback. And it's also the place where after you select an object, you can add components, scripts onto your object, and you can make some adjustments to settings. We'll see about these adjustments as soon as we get an object into the scene to play with it. To get an object in the scene, you can drag it into here, or you can right-click, import new asset, or asset, import new asset. First thing I'm going to do is create an asset, and it's going to be the simplest asset possible, and then you can import things. And this way, you can build your scene. First thing to do is to save your scene. File, save as, and I'm going to call this scene Scene 1. Save. By saving the scene, it appears here. And to access that scene, which you're seeing right now, you would just double-click that asset to open it up. You could also go under File, Open Scene. If you want a new scene, File, New Scene, you can pick a template. You can hit Cancel, because one scene is enough to get started. First thing, create an object. Afterwards, you'll import an asset. Go to Game Object, 3D Object, and select Cube. Or you can right-click here, 3D Object, Cube. They both lead to the same place, a cube being created in the center of the scene. Zoom into this selected object, press Shift-F, and you'll zoom right in. To orbit the view, hold down the Option or Alt key and left mouse button to orbit. To pan, Option or Alt key, middle mouse button will pan. And to zoom, Option or Alt key, left mouse button. This is the scene view. Right next to it is the game view. If you click on the camera, you'll see a preview of what that game experience would be like, or your animation experience would be like. To set this to be this game view, select your camera, go to Game Object, Align with View. And now your game view is just like your scene view. You can still orbit around, and now you can see the camera is pointing at your object like this. So it's a convenient way to set up your camera. Just orbit around with your camera selected, Game Object, Align with View. Now that you have an object in the scene, to move it around, select the object and drag it on the arrowheads, the gizmo, to move it around. As you drag it around, if you look in the inspector, you can see the numbers are moving around. If you want it to move this to a particular place, like on one unit on the x-axis, just type in the number 1 there, and there's where it is. Now, after you move your object, let's say you rotate your object like this. After moving your object around and you want to remove all of its transformations, with the object selected, go right here to these 3 little dots and let me move my panel over. Click on the 3 dots and select Reset. And now your object is back to the way it was. In the hierarchy, you can select your object just like the camera was selected. And from there, you can click and rename it. You can also select it there and delete it.